Yes, yes. When you hear that dope beat drop, you know that you are tuned in to Grande Loq, the Grandiloquent Hip Hop Show. We talk hip hop and great music straight to the old heads. Our show continues, we hope, to amplify great hip hop that is being made today. And we take a look back at some of our favorites in the hip hop genre. My name's Ian Taronji. I'm one of your co hosts. My esteemed co-host Tia Abner. Tia, how are
I
you?
am doing fabuloso. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And the grandiloquent one himself, Artemis Thompson. Artemis, what's
Man,
up?
chilling, waiting on that stimulus check, you know?
The stimmy.
That's why I'm wearing green.
uh, I hope they come
I know,
soon.
right?
I hope they come soon. Yeah. Well, guys, tonight we are going to unpack a lot here. Controversy behind legendary hip hop icons Salt and Peppa and their former group mate, DJ Spinderella. And we'll do a review of another great 2020 album that ended up on a lot of year end best of lists. We're talking Benny the Butcher's Burden of Proof. Finally, our classic album review, Tia's recommendation tonight, the Mount Vernon, New York All Stars, Pete Rock, and CL Smooth. The 92 classic, the debut, Mecca and the Soul Brother. I got to tell you guys, I've been looking forward to this one all week. This was one of these deals where, like, we always bounce ideas like what we're going to talk about this week, what album we're going to do. And it was one like, Tia's like, all right, we're doing Mecca and the Soul Brother. And Artemis and I were both like, okay,
Yeah.
yes, perfect. And then Artemis is
Perfect
like,
hit.
yeah, let's do Benny the Butcher. And Tia and I were both like, yes, great idea, great idea. This has been a lot of fun this week, like really digging into this music. I can tell you, Mecca and the Soul Brother. It had been a while since I heard it, and it was so good to like get back into it. So we're gonna get into our feelings, remember the times, and we're gonna dig into what makes that album a classic, as well as uh, maybe Burden of Proof is going to be a classic someday. Great album. So, but first, let's talk Spinderella, the whole glass ceiling. Tia, was your you wanted to talk about this topic. Give us like a little background, and then we'll just start chopping it up.
Yes. So I think in fair, I shouldn't probably have to explain much around who DJ Spinderella is from the legendary Salt and Peppa rap group. But I think one of the things around this is that it's been an ongoing story. So I think in 2018, around that year, there was a story that broke around sort of controversy in the group. And at that time, there was a note that was issued from the group, sort of a statement, public PR PR release or something like that, that said something about them having trouble and that Spinderella was leaving the group. I think that kind of got washed under the rug a little bit, and then that didn't resurface until like 2020 last year when Spinderella filed a lawsuit alleging missing royalties, underpayment for various appearances that she'd made, as well as being not paid for their 2018 Billboard Music Awards performance. And so I pulled an article, I think, from Billboard where Spinderella is seeking compensation that goes all the way back to '99 for their Best Of album, where she said she never received royalties from that album. And then, in addition to that, after some commentary due to that lawsuit, right, the other two members, Salt and Pepper, both responded on their social medias, which are very sort of like Cheryl and Sandy themselves, not more so like Salt and Pepper, but their personal accounts, kind of saying that some really nasty things about Spinderella. So, in addition to the money issues, she's also suing for fraud, trademark infringement, claiming that she actually came up with some song titles, some album titles, some song concepts, suing them for breach of contract, and then also wants them to no longer use her image and likeness or her name while promoting events. And she feels that, obviously she's been denied work opportunities because of this. So back in January, it was noted that the group fired Spinderella and kicked her off a tour. So at that time, Spinderella also requested like a restraining order against the former groupmates because there was some, some heated conversation on social media about like hitting her or something like that to that effect. Um, and so now that they've already had to pay her for some of those incidences where there's been regard to physical harm, that has now been resolved, but there's all these other lingering things. In addition, that leads us to the most recent issue around this Lifetime biopic and Spinderella's like peculiar sort of lack of glaring omission.
Hmm.
So she's been the biopic, Salt and Pepper biopic premiered this week on Lifetime, and Spinderella is just pissed about the fact that she is not included in the film, and that it heavily focuses solely on Salt and Pepper's journey, or Cheryl and Sandy's journey, rather, without Spinderella to fame. And so Spinderella, yeah, is really sad. So I have a lot to unpack from all of this, but she's basically writing Spinderella, that is writing an upcoming memoir, sort of navigating all of this that is currently sort of in legality and litigation right now, as well as her relationships, being mentored by all these really wonderful DJs, Terminator X and DJ Jazzy Jeff. Like she's had some of the greatest DJ mentors ever. And so this is really going to be exploring that, as well as, the fact that she's got all of those relationships over 30 plus years. Um, but yeah, we can dig into her from there.
Yeah, yeah. I had a law professor who once told me that the most bitter lawsuits that there are between and among family members. And I feel like bands and musical groups become like family, and when those relationships fray, they tend to fray in very spectacular supernova ways. And so it
Mhm.
sounds like, yeah, I mean, if they've actually done a biopic and just sort of omitted her contribution to their music, that's, like you said, a glaring omission.
Now, I had a question for you, Ian, on like in the fact of it became about using image and likeness, because when a group like Salt and Peppa is called Salt and Peppa, assuming that is inclusive of her. So I don't, wondering how how they've been portraying themselves or using that name without like her inclusive of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be able to evaluate the claims without actually seeing what they're alleging, seeing what evidence they have, what do the contracts say. I'm presuming that they would have been in some sort of a partnership agreement. There was probably a management agreement. There's all kinds of record deals.
Hmm.
So it's a lot to unwind and unpack. And I'm sure some junior lawyers at a high priced law firm somewhere are going to be spending their weekends pouring through contracts and different court cases to try to figure out how to get either get her paid or make her go away, depending on which side you're representing. So, but yeah, it sounds like you know they're all girding up for fights, like they already have been. It seems like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. And just to give people a sense of like how deep this was, is the fact that the biopic was directed by Mario Van Peebles and executive produced by Queen Latifah. So there's also personal relationships. I mean, this is, a person
Hmm.
who's been in there for 30 plus years. She knows them very personally.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just, it featured her, but as almost like a person who's just in the film but without being in the group. It's very interesting. If you haven't seen it, I can't give it away, but um,
All right.
it doesn't really show her role as being a meaningful contribution to the actually legacy of the group.
Yeah. Well, my wife's been talking about catching it, so I am sure I will be watching soon. So, Artemis, you've seen and experienced this on like both sides, so many bands and groups and collaborations. Um, you know, what's your sort of artist point of view take on all of this?
Well, I've heard about the falling out, like probably a couple like quite a few years ago, actually. Now that I think about it, this has been going on for some time. I didn't know there was physical harm involved with this, and I didn't know Mario Van Peebles and Queen Latifah had something to do with the biopic either. That's wild. But I'd say with this reminds me of like when Miss Chalet, she did her biopic on one of her VH1 after after the NWA biopic came out because her story wasn't covered in the biopic, like her part of it really. Um, so that's what it reminds me of. And I feel like with Spinderella, even though her name wasn't in Salt and Pepper, you knew Spinderella because she was always there with them after a certain point. So my thing is, if she's contributing to like a lot of the music, kind of like in ideas and everything, she needs to be credited for it because nowadays in like a lot of major studios, especially like major labels, they make people sign off on whatever goes in those studios now. Like if you're in the studio and you give like an idea to somebody in production or an engineer or even an artist, you have to put your name down on some paper and they like credit you for it. So it's a big deal that if she's giving ideas for like music like that, that she be like compensated somehow. Um, I don't know. I feel like with Spinderella, she should be able to get her side of the story off. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm gonna say this. I don't mean this to be funny or dissing, but I mean I understand why Lifetime would do it. But come on, man, can we get can we get a biopic that's not going to be like edited, chopped out, and all this? Because they're doing songs like "What a Man" and "Shoot." We know Pepper Pepper was with Tretch. They did some nasty shit together. I'm just saying. I don't understand. Like Lifetime, nah, man. Come on, man. Like they're gonna cut
It's
out
the Salt and
everything.
Pepper Christmas movie.
I mean, it could be like the notorious biopic. I mean, I hate to admit it, but you did see a scene of Lil Kim and Biggie getting it on. It was true. They were smashing, but
Yeah,
yeah, it was true. So I don't
yeah.
know, man. I just feel like Lifetime ain't the way, man. I don't know. That's just my opinion. But
But
It needs to
even
be
with
like
someone
HBO
heavy
Max.
hitter.
what'd you say?
Would you say that
Needs
again, Ian? That was funny.
it needs to be HBO Max.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly. I just think like with even with the heavy hitters, I don't know. You're right, Artemis. The Lifetime is Lifetime. I feel like we got to be honest about the production value, but it's Mario Van Peebles. I mean, this is New Jack City
that's true.
and Queen Latifah. It's like, and I
Yeah.
think to me that I liken this to like if Jam Master Jay isn't featured in a Run DMC biopic, like people would revolt. You can't have a Run DMC anything without mentioning Jam Master Jay. You can't have Fresh
Right.
Prince without having Jazzy Jeff. Like there's
Right.
just certain
Right.
things that would be criminal to not do.
Right.
And it isn't that she's not in. She wasn't consulted in the development. She wasn't consulted for her role. So it is like some minimal kind of a like person on screen that you're just like, what's this weird person tagging along with this, at different intervals for? Like, is that supposed to be Spinderella? Like you're confused. And so anyway, yeah, I don't
Mm.
think Run DMC could ever get away with something like that.
And that's what I'm saying. A lot of groups can't do it. I mean, imagine, imagine Outkast just like focusing on just one member, like just
Yeah.
focusing on Andre 3000 or just
Yeah.
Big
That's
Boy.
that's who it would be too.
Yeah, or biopic on like Gangstar, and all you just did was like focus on DJ Premier. Like
Right.
everyone's be
Right.
like, "What? What's this?" Like it was a duo. It's not just one person. So,
Exactly.
you can't just like you can't erase Spinderella from history like that. I don't think. I mean, she was too prominent. I mean, you know what? Matter of fact, let me say this. I used to get confused because I was like, it's Salt and Pepper, but then there's Spinderella. I'm like, I just didn't. I was like, where? How can a name fit in the group name? And I used to think about that. I was like, maybe they're gonna change their name so all three of them could be in it because there's two people, and then there's a third person. And I was like, okay, she's part of it. That used to stand out to me. So it's hard to like not acknowledge that Spinderella was there. And they probably should. And they more than likely should have gotten her side of the story too, for the biopic to like get the full story, because
Yeah.
she's seen a lot. She's seen enough to the point where, you know, like there's like this nastiness going on, and I don't blame her. I mean, but at the same time, like I don't know all the full details, so you don't know who's right or wrong. You just know that there's in between all that, there's somebody's truth there, or everybody's.
Yeah.
You know.
It's hard. I don't know. I
Tia,
will
you
say
wanna
on the other side.
wrap us up on this one?
Yes, I will say, just to kind of close it out, I did peep it on the other side, and every there's two sides to every story, right? And in
Right.
their opinion, Salt and Peppa's, both of their individual opinion is that Spinderella kind of came in. She was brought in because Howie C was like their DJ, and then they had someone else, and then it was just sort of like came in and kind of tried to change things and make it about her, and so there's some ownership stuff there, and I think it just got nasty. They that had been happening under the surface the entire time. We just all didn't know. So it came to a head, and just the legacy of groups. So it's unfortunate, but I really do hope that they can resolve it, even for just like history's sake.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the meantime, we'll get a new memoirs from Spinderella, and I mean, I feel like we need those stories more and more. There's more of that women coming to the forefront, and she even starts out her comment. I'll just say to end it, to sort of say like black women's voices and contributions have been silenced, particularly in recent years, more so than ever. And so she really wants to bring her voice to the forefront, to be like she's fighting on behalf of like justice for, just let's not make people invisible.
Right.
So
Yeah.
her cause is greater, I guess, than just a singular thing.
Right.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. It's like I said, these fights tend to be, look, litigation is hard enough when you're not famous. When you actually are famous, and then you all of your business is being put out there, it's, it gets really, really personal. It sounds to me like
Hmm.
that's where they are, but I hope, like you, Tia, that they're able to patch things up. Usually I think age sometimes, and like not being able to make ends meet, that sometimes brings
Hmm.
artists who didn't really like each other kind of back together sometimes. But I'm sure Salt and Peppa's doing just fine.
Close to 50-year-old women. I don't
So
know. Age might.
That's what bugged me out too. I was like, yo, they're going at it like they're 25. Like, I don't know, yo. That's bugged out.
yes. Well, check out the Lifetime movie. I don't think we're picking a side here. It's sad that it's come to this, but
Right.
hopefully they're able to patch it up. So, well, we're gonna take a short break. We're gonna come back, and we are gonna talk Burden of Proof, Benny the Butcher.
Yup.
Money over fame, a real boss make his bitch one too. I did that twice cause everybody in my clique won too. Now I'm headed to be the best, and the presidents we collect is what they judge us off, but that's just the pressure of being next. They ask me how I feel.
Yo, what up? You are back with Grande LOQ, the Grandiloquent Hip Hop Show. And yes, we took a little break and we came back because we promised you we're going to talk about Benny the Butcher's second album. I thought it was his first album, but this is actually his second album, called Burden of Proof, produced by mainly Hit Boy, who just did King's Disease by Nas, which was a dope album as well. He did most of the tracks except for like maybe a few, like two by Jansport J. Shout out to that brother because he's been putting in work for years. And Colbert and G Rye, who I'm not familiar with, but every track on this album is banging. This album was actually released on October 16th, and it features Big Sean, Conway the Machine, Dom Kennedy, Freddie Gibbs, Lil Wayne, Queen Najee, I think I said that right, Rick Ross, and West Side Gun. Debuted at number 27 on the Billboard 200, which was like the equivalent of 19,000 sales, album unit sales, which is damn good for being independent like he is. If you don't know about Benny the Butcher is signed or part of Griselda Records. And this is where it gets a little crazy because West Side Gun and Conway, they were with Shady Records. If I can remember, they're still there, I'm not sure. They were with Shady Records. But Benny wasn't. Benny was actually signed to Griselda Records, but he has a deal with the Rock, basically. So he's been like a shining star. He's been killing it. I've seen him live. Me and T, on there, we saw this man shut it down live with Griselda. They put on a dope show. And he's just been just crazy consistent. This album has been like, listen to this album. It's like hearing like the bump that we just heard right now, Famous. It's funny how like he takes it back somewhat to like the days of like Dipset in the early days, but you know, moving forward, he puts his own spin and twist on it. And I was telling T and Ian how much of the like this is like intelligent like drug rap, you know, very very reflective. Like he's always taking like what he's doing like very serious, like when it comes to like his music. And I enjoyed this album. I need to spend more time with it because I have to say this, peek behind the curtain. Ian was like, we need some more albums to, you know, kind of check out that came out in 2020. Since we were like, you know, we were still going through a few things. And I just happened to stumble upon this album. I didn't even know it came out. And I was waiting for a new Benny the Butcher album myself because they're always dropping stuff. West Side Gun got something out. Conway Machine got something out. They're on so many people's albums.
Yeah.
But this album, I was like, oh, snap, let me check it out. And I didn't realize it had been out since October. But anyways, Tia, what did you think about this album? You listen to it.
So you know what? It's funny because I think a lot of people had this to say about this album. With it being a sophomore album, was it like a sophomore slump? I think every artist kind of gets an opportunity to step out of their, what might be their entry or their sort of gateway into artistry, and then, or their first album into the industry, and then really do something different. And I think this one is a more of a celebration of like the new life that he now has. It's kind of the first album. It's in preparation for at some point him becoming this person that I think is very obvious that they have, sold out tours. They have Rolex watches. He has, had an opportunity. He's no longer sort of this grisly drug dealer now, right? It's like he's got success now, but there's also the aspect of the journey, and that's why I think it's like the burden of proof. Like that, you have enough diamonds in your bezel, you're gonna have more problems, as they say. So I think this album is interesting for that reason. Like I don't always expect for that follow-up album to be as great as like the plugs I met. Is totally different, and so I feel like you gotta let like artists, especially rap artists, grow. We just constantly always kind of push them. That has to be stay in the same vein. And I feel like this album, I feel like it's him growing as an artist. Like I'm looking forward to what he's about to do next in terms of like where's this new sound going, because Griselda and Hit Boy is not something I would have traditionally thought. Hit Boy is a very California sound. He even says he used to have a jerry curl like Ice Cube. So, he is a California boy all the way. And it's a different kind of thing hearing like this, where we're used to hearing a Griselda sound be really like minimalist. This is much more maximal than it is minimalist. So the aesthetic that he puts on like soul loops is even totally different from like the Griselda sound. So I like it. I'm like, this for me is like, it's put the minimalist aesthetic in a stadium, and you kind of get this kind of middle of the road kind of view. So I like this.
No doubt. Well said. You know what? This is the moment that I didn't realize Hit Boy was from California too. I always thought he was from Atlanta. I kind of feel like there was somebody named Hit something from Atlanta that I'd heard about, but I did not realize he was from Cali. Yeah. But it does make sense though with like his variety of production. So that's dope.
Exactly.
Ian, what do you think about this album?
What I think about this album, I think this album requires a little bit of pink champagne
and some tequila.
I'm gonna be healthy. Water here.
This album was exquisite. It's to me, it deals in a lot of sort of classic hip hop tropes of like the gangster lifestyle, the the expensive watch, the expensive clothes.
Mhm.
At one point, he's like, I can't remember the exact line, but he's like, "What, you want to be crying in a Toyota, or do you want to be crying in this Maybach?" And it's just like,
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
that's beautiful. I love it. I love that line. That to me like encapsulates the album. It's like he's very confident. I think Tia, you make a great point that as a second album, he's really able to kind of he's experienced success. He's experienced that hip hop lifestyle that
Mhm.
like so many kids just dream about, and so now he's telling everybody about it, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I thought some of the samples on this were just fantastic, very musical, which you guys know that that's my thing. But some really really beautifully constructed production, matched with impeccable flow and just great stuff that he's talking about. It's a
No
really
doubt.
honest album, and I think he's also having fun with you know being on top of the hip hop world, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, he's very sought after. And one thing too, you guys see him in interviews because because the way he raps, it does reflect the interviews and vice. Like when he talks about um, a black soprano, like a BSF, like he talks about it because he always wears that chain. He talks about them a lot and he like, gives them a lot of shout outs. And he talks about just like the pain and
Yeah,
stuff from like dealing with what he had to do within his past. But he also talks about just like the success, triumph, all that stuff, man. And he's very intelligent about it too. And it reflects in his music so well. You hear him in his interviews, you're like, damn, this dude has really been through a lot. And I'm glad he's able to put this out, considering he went through that incident last year, right? Like he went that it was happened in Texas. We did talk about
Yeah.
that. So yeah,
We
so
talked about
I'm
that,
glad
yeah.
that he was able to like put this out and
when
just
he
get
got
a good
robbed.
reception. Yeah, you got robbed. Yeah, yeah, we talked about it
Mhm.
for a little bit, and it just hit me now when we're talking about it. It's like, dang, that did happen to him, and he's still just alive and well, and still just providing us with good music, good content. So salute to him for that. But
Yep.
with that said, we should get into a couple of these joints, man. So yo, we're
Yeah.
gonna check out a track called "Trade It All" by Benny the Butcher. Let's hear that real quick.
Yeah. I'm a product of the block I lived in the park, Nazis and bigs for raw. Took my door across the George Washington Bridge. I was full, but more shocked. Had a Lord watching us live up a pure rock, nigga. I put a Fort Knox in my crib. I was the one they overlooked. Now a nigga overbooked. Got them haters disappointed like when a soda overcooked. More money, more problems. Jealous niggas throwing looks. That's why every 100 bands I make my clip for a foot. So my story to the world. So everything I afford came from me losing my brother and all the pain I absorbed. Them down soldiers, all the members of the gang got lost on this road to success. And yes, it came at a cost. So don't confuse what you hear. I put these shoes in my ear cause I wore the same pair of kicks to school for a year, nigga. I traded all to get my niggas back. How real is that? Cause fuck it, we gon' grind together just to get it back. Yo, life crazy, but shit gotta happen, so.
Some deep imagery there
Yeah.
too,
Yeah, it is.
and listen, and like I said with his interviews too, he talks about a lot of loss that he's experienced over years. Actually, Conway too, and like with West Side Gun, they've all been through a lot. If you're not familiar with where they're from upstate New York, the Buffalo area, and they just talk about a lot of their trials and tribulations of just trying to like survive. And
Yeah.
I like hearing this side of Benny even more and Trade It All. I thought it was very deep and just like very introspective. Tia, what'd you think about this track?
This is so I had heard when this album came out that Hit Boy took one of the folklore around this was that he took a Jay-Z and Kanye beat from Watch the Throne and nobody knew what it was. And he later said it was this track, Trade It All, so that the fact that like this beat was sitting in the stash or whatever and it was for Jay and Kanye. I just think like how interesting that might have been alongside like a Niggas in Paris or whatever all those great songs that were on there that Hit Boy was a part of. But like this, I felt like it just gave so much more, I don't know, pressure to Benny to live up to be like, Jay and Ye almost had this. You got to make sure you come correct. And I thought like the lyrically is one of the deepest songs on the album. And I mean, to me, as like a parent, is every parent kind of says to themselves like, right, you provide a better life because you want your kids to sort of outpace you. You want them to do better than you. And that is the majority of this song is really talking about wanting, you want your kids to do better than you. Be a great father means, not following in my footsteps. And you think about how intimate that is to even say, right? Like, so anyway, Trade It All is like one of my favorite ones.
Oh, that's such a beautiful song. Such a beautiful song. Ian, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with your guys' thoughts. What really hit me in that song is talking about how he achieved all this success, but he had to achieve it by like talking about, his brother's loss, and really kind of opening himself up that the cost of the lifestyle was like pouring all of this emotion and all of this loss and heartache out for the world to see, and just being exposed that way. I thought that was really touching. I think the sample that they're using there is so lush and musical, and it's just really beautiful musically. So just a great song. I remember I was listening to it again this afternoon while I was doing some work, and you have to kind of like stop and listen and like really focus in on what he's saying, and it's just it's a gorgeous song.
No doubt. I'm surprised J&J didn't pick this. They were
Yeah.
tripping not to pick this.
Yeah,
Like, what in the... But Benny did it justice, though, man. I imagine it's like one of those songs like you're kicking back with a cigar, and you got like some bourbon with you, and you're just reflecting on everybody that you done lost, and you're just like, dang,
Some pink
I'm
champagne.
here in a good place, but I lost so many people at the same time, and I'm just really feeling fucked up about it. So that song, that's what came to mind in my head when I heard this song. So dope track.
And he's in a good place. Because he like exposed himself and put that out to the world, all that loss and all that pain.
Right.
Yeah.
She did, man. Definitely. But with that said,
and kind of like and the title "Trade It All," I kind of took that to mean that he would trade all that success to have those people back in his life.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I was exactly thinking. He's just reflecting like, dang, I wish they were here to see the success I achieved so I could share it with them. So yeah, man.
No doubt.
Now with all that said, we should go to the next track entitled, oddly enough, "Thank God I Made It," featuring Queen Naija. Naija. See, I did say it right earlier. Queen Naija. So let's say that real quick. "Thank God I Made It," featuring Queen Naija by Benny the Butcher.
Yeah, I was raised by a woman, so shout out to single mothers who had to teach their teenage boys to use rubbers. Getting calls home from school, then wondering why she bugging. Cause that's just more stress to add on top of struggling. Few things I wanna show you, cause I feel like I owe you. You made me the man I am today, I never told you. Trust me and hand me down cause you couldn't afford polo. How it feel to see your two oldest boys' names on logos. Had to protect my family, so we played with guns. I can't respect the man who don't raise his son. Then you blame the white man on what they become a gangster, but reality of it is you made them one. Real niggas look in the mirror and see each other. I look in my nephew eyes and I see my brother. Sometimes I gotta look away cause it hurts so much. How that nigga died so young and he was worth so much. Damn.
Put your hands together for the work of the Most High. Put my hands together and I pray all night. Cause the struggle is real, but the hustle is too. I'm flipping my dreams, thought it all come true. Thank God I made it, thank God I made it.
Yo. So when I was listening to this, I definitely had to reflect on my like growing up. I didn't come from a single parent like household, but my parents worked hard to like make sure I was good. And like it wasn't like we always had the finest of things, but they would put two and two together to get four and make it happen for me. and
Mm-hmm.
there were bits and pieces of this song I was just like relating to, like, damn, that is pretty real. You know, I couldn't always get the finest clothes or whatever. I never got into no crazy violent stuff, but you know, there were times where things could have gotten that way, and I really like, I don't know, hearing the lyrics with it, combined with like the sample, the beat, which is so, that beat is so fire, and the hook, it just came together to me. So yeah, I really love this song. What you think, Tia?
Same for me. This is I think probably one of my top songs on the album. I really like Queen Naija. She's like one of my favorite of the new R&B class of like that, Ari Lennox and
Mm.
Kaylani and like those folks. I really like her. She stands
Yeah.
out to me. And so anyway, I just feel like she picks right up on this, like it's got this piano led vibe on here, the like distorted drum. It's really um it really is to me. I mean, as a person, right, as a single mother raising a young black boy, right, like by myself without a dad, I this song was just it for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I immediately got trapped on it. um and having family, I love the fact that like there's a connection and devotion of family that's on this, which is very much, I don't know, it's not sort of like a trope that we hear very much in like gangster, like that crime rap kind of a thing, but it is something we see a lot in like a Scorsese film, right? So to me this is like,
Mm-hmm.
it's Artemis, you said, is very smart, kind of elegant kind of crime rap in a way, and that is where it led me to, was like, this is like a Scorsese kind of a film or something. Like I
Mm.
could feel this as, that American dream pursuit, but at the same time like this really matured reflection on family and an homage to where you come from. So I love this song.
No doubt. Well said. Well said. And what your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it feels like a great bookend to Trade It All. Um, just a little more, what's the word? Like elegiac, a little more kind of uplift
Mm-hmm.
in the sample, which gives it, like gives the really deep words, gives them a lightness that makes it very listenable. But obviously, I like to think that every man feels that way about his mother, whether you grew up in a single family household or not. I know that that's not the case, but like, you certainly you hope that men feel that way about their mother. They should, and about their families. It's not always that way, like I said, but it is for me. I'm blessed to have a great family, and so songs that really kind of touch on that family heartstring are touching to me. I mean, this is, those two songs for me were like the most, emotional and kind of heartstring pulling. And you guys know I'm not like a lyrics first person when it comes to hip hop. I love samples and I love beats and I love music and melody and harmony, and just my ear has always naturally been attuned to those aspects of music first. Not that I don't appreciate great lyricism and I don't appreciate great flow and rhythm, but you know those were songs that really, um, I don't always feel like hip hop speaks to my experience. I can always appreciate the artistry of a great artist speaking honestly and speaking truth. But these were songs that kind of touched me personally.
Right. No, it's perspective too. Like I said,
Yeah.
I take bits and pieces of it because, and on another note of it, listen to this song, there were like there are things in there he was saying that I remember people I grew up with going through, like
Yeah.
heavy like going to court kind of things and getting
Hmm.
busted for all kinds of stuff that I would rather not get into. But the thing is, like that song reflected that, man, and like it's probably one of the top of last year, to be honest with you. Now I think about it, that song for me is one of the top of last year. Listen to it.
Yeah, it's a great tune.
So
Great
yeah,
song.
so without further ado, let's get into the last track we're going to review for this. And this is actually produced by Jansport J. I love this track. It is called New Streets by Billy Butcher. So let's get into it. All right.
Yeah, that's what we gonna do. We gonna talk about this street shit. Hey, look, I don't care about haters, I'm only concerned with hustlers think. But I think it's time I finally address this publicly. It's rubbing me the wrong way when these rappers speak comfortably about street life. It seems like they only giving y'all luxuries. I sat on work when I was positive it would sell. You know this game come with way more consequences than jail. Bittersweet when you win it deep, gassed up a rented V. Traveling with a key while I'm passing through Tennessee. Told baby girl I'd be back. She said be careful. I told baby girl I'd be strapped. That made her worry more. Street niggas live by dirty laws. I got my stripes, how you earning yours? Can't let these niggas think I'm turning soft. It's gonna be hard to convince kids, but honestly, losses taught me more than my wins did. It's complicated, I can't see it. Work hard to just break even. We traded that for them great beaches in St. Regis. Trust me, there's two sides, one glamorous, other scandalous. These symptoms of abandonment.
Man, I heard this. I was like, man, Benny went to the school of Ghostface Killer, man. Learned how to like ride the beat nice with what he's saying. And then on top of that, he's talking about like how the streets are now in comparison to when he was on the streets and with the rappers in the industry. And that hit me because I remember being in tons of ciphers and there would be like street dudes around and they got tons of verses about heavy crime shit they did. And they're very cool because I know that, you know, they just got through doing something maybe properly. I don't know. But they seem like it, and I believe them off the break. And I like that he threw that element in there. That was like late 90s, early 2000s for me a lot of times. And this track, it gave that feel. You know, it was a little heavier on the drums in comparison to like what Ghostface would rap over. Because Ghostface would rap over the whole instrumental of some old soul. But this one, this is like, you know, Jansport J laid there with like a nice little sample in the drums. And, yo, Benny kept it short and sweet, man, and straight to the point. I like this track. Tia, what's your thoughts?
Same for me. I like a line up on everything you said, like the ghost face feel of just the school, right? Like it kind of like you can see us gross in that school. And then another person, I feel like, I mean, Jay, you know, we know everything on that label he has his hands on, and so he even helped arrange some of these tracks. So I don't know which of those tracks he did arrange, but I know Hit Boy said that like he helped with some of the spacing and stuff like that on the track. So um Jay, this is like school of Jay to me. Like it's definitely, he even uses this sample I love because Jay, one of his most popular songs, Allure, uses this too, and so it kind of reminds me the remix, the Just Blaze remix uses this sample anyway. And so anyway, I always thought like when you want to when you know channel Jay, you got to use something like that he's used, but not something that's like an obvious kind of thing. So this is a perfect way of almost, it's a subtle way of honoring Jay, to be like, it's my boss, but at the same time, like, you know, he kind of contributed to the styling of this album. And this song kind of feels very Jay-ish to me. It's definitely one of my favorites, and it's a good, like, it's just a good vibe to it too. It's like it's got that cinematic thing I like. So yeah.
And this is why you are our sample oracle, because you pointed that out. I didn't even know that. That's fire. See, I keep learning stuff on this podcast. I like that.
No doubt.
Ian,
No doubt.
what's your thoughts, man? Go ahead.
No doubt. Well, I know it touched you when he's talking about riding through Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
I know that had to hit you, my man. No, not really.
It did.
You like to forget. You like to forget that part.
No. It's riding through Tennessee meant something different for me. We were trying to dodge some sundown towns, man. So.
Fair enough. Oh, okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Go ahead. Ian, what you saying?
No. I mean, it's a gorgeous sample. It's a really great song. You know, just I didn't realize that was you know, the Just Blaze remix of Allure. That's great work by the sample oracle right there. And yeah, I'm gonna actually go look that up when we're done here. This is such a great album. So much, you know, so enjoyable to listen to. You know, like I said, it's a distillation of a lot of great classic hip hop tropes that you hear a lot of it just in this song. You know, the way that like an opera, you get sort of like the introductory where they're, giving you little bits and pieces of all the music that's coming. I feel like this song is a great distillation of a lot of what's great about this album. The beautiful sample, the great lyricism that's very honest and open. And at the same time, like basically telling people, I'm here, I'm the man, I'm swinging the biggest dick around here, and that's what I'm about. And I appreciate that, man. That's hip hop. That's hip hop.
Definitely.
I'm giving it one pink champagne.
So bougie. Anyway. So bougie. Anyway.
Maybe two. I think I still got a little bit left.
You might as well stick your pinky out at that point.
It's so funny that what I learned about Benny when we saw him, Artemis, I think when we saw him,
yeah,
I didn't know that he has severe asthma. And hearing Pharoah Monch talk about his struggle with it, and like hearing Benny talk about just the circumstances around being a rapper with asthma is a whole different kind of level of lung strength and like what that means. It definitely adds layers to some of your your favorite rappers kind of journey. So I don't know if this album to me is like feels very airy. I know that's a weird thing to say, but like a guy that has asthma and has battled with that his entire life, kind of in and out of hospitals and stuff like that, and then this album kind of has this like this levity to it. It's just, I don't know. I love the fact that like you can be hard hitting bars and have a message that doesn't necessarily like I love that freestyle where he's like, they want me to talk about like some social justice shit. I don't want to talk about like my life is a social justice. Like my life is,
right.
This whole entire experience of my journey into where I am is real. Like I could sit and pontificate like some story or whatever about like, if we put more economics, we defunded the police, but it's like I actually can tell you what it's like to get to where I am and what that looks like. So I don't know. This album, I'm like, people got to start putting the iconic like tag on the Griselda. They are definitely, there's so many layers to the group. They're not just the brr guys,
Yeah,
it's more.
It's a lot. No, it's a lot. And it's crazy. I'm gonna spend some more time with this album because I listened to it a little bit like earlier when I just stumbled upon it. But yeah, I agree. Like they are so very layered, and definitely, man, I recommend y'all. If you're listening to this podcast, I definitely recommend you picking it up. If you can get a hard copy of it, probably should do it now because the vinyl is going to be at least like $100-$200 like within about a year because that's how all their albums have been doing. And it's always limited press if you're into hard copies. So, Being the Butcher, Burden of Proof, his second album, I suggest you go pick it up. Definitely. And now we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back with the classic Mecca and the Soul Brother by Pete Rock and CL Smooth. You heard? Yep.
Believe that.
Come on. For Pete's sake, I'm breaking up date. Wait, I radiate a dub plate and navigate the tunes I make. I fit like a slipper, so catch the Big Dipper. Vital signs are quick enough to flatline picture. The Showtime original, official is the smooth criminal. I hit the cliches or the subliminal. With the soul technician to build the prescription.
Yes. So, that is the sounds of the amazing 1992 release from Mount Vernon, New York natives Pete Rock and CL Smooth. That album is called Mecca and the Soul Brother. It is one of hip hop's greatest album releases, and just recently turned 25 years old. And it is, largely by and wide considered an acclaimed and attested rap classic. It is absolutely part of the canon where you start your journey. It's hard to even believe it's been 25 years because that album and listening back to it could very much be played in today. And I don't know if I would even, it just, there's a lot of levels of essences of today in the album with some of the sounds and just Pete Rock's production is just a testament, I think, to how timeless it is and how timeless CL Smooth's flow were back in that time. This album is anchored by so many great songs, but I think most importantly, The songs that we've chosen today really reflect, I think, the diversity of the album. It was a little commercial success when this album came out in comparison to like The Chronic, which also came out in '92. But in '92 was a really hard year for hip hop there in terms of competitiveness because there was just a lot there. But the first single from that album, They Reminisce Over You, also known as Troy, which is a dedication to a lost friend, Trouble T. Roy, who was a dance member for Heavy D and the Boys, and became, I mean, pretty much one of hip hop's most highly regarded songs ever recorded. It's talk about the fact that wild acclaim, sort of all over the world. Um, and that this album really, I think, changed the way that a lot of things were being done in from that time in '92. Just how people were sampling, how people were putting projects together, and also it also affected, I think, like singles filler because this album only had like three singles, but right, it was a nonetheless an album that you listen all the way through. Um, so just I want to pass it off and get another opinion here on the album. But Artemis, I know you had some specifics about this album that you found interesting.
Yeah, so well, I'm gonna take it back to maybe in this is '92, so I was in junior high. So okay, I had this tape, um, and there was a funny little accident that happened with this tape I had. I thought um, I thought the B side was the A side for some reason. I don't know how that happened, but I remember listening to the B side so much, because Troy was on the B side, so some of the songs I would listen to on there that were my favorite were on this side. So because we're going to talk about It's Like That and a couple others on and
Mm-hmm.
on. I used when on and on was a B side. Anyways, I have like certain like kind of weird memories about this album because when I was playing like on a select soccer team, I would listen to this tape in my Walkman and I could just kind of bob around and get ready for the game a little bit. I didn't tell y'all this earlier, but this is a very true story. And I thought about it. This came out in '92, and this is like that turn of just like, you know, the beats didn't necessarily get slower, but they were starting to. And this is like a darker feel, but it was still like really fast paced. Uh, and listen to Pete Rock and CL Smooth. I mean, I used to see the videos all the time, and like I was just like, these guys are just like pieces of a puzzle that just go together so well when like they get together. And I think like after a while, just listen to the album and seeing the videos. Um, I remember I saw an older video, and like I don't know if people remember this. I don't remember the name of the song, but there was a video where Pete Rock is rapping and CL Smooth is DJing. I need to find this video again. That used to bug me out because Pete Rock does rap on one of the songs or a couple of them on like in Soul Brother. But
Right.
that used to bug me out when I saw that. I was like, wait, what? They switched
Mm-hmm.
roles? What? But it was an older video. I was like, dang. This album, man, I think it's very, very essential for people to listen to. If you can get a copy of the repressed edition of it, that's deluxe. There are B sides, remixes, and acapellas that come with it as well. If I'm not mistaken, it did. I feel like the regular version of it got repressed on like clear vinyl, um, not too long ago as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say definitely get it. It's a classic. Like Ego Trip is raved about it. All the media outlets have raved about it, and just your head, the heads that remember it coming out at that time will tell you it's essential listening.
Yeah.
And then you got like some of the younger generation coming around that listen to the album and even give it its props and proper respect. So definitely.
Hmm. Ian, let's hear from you. I know you had some special things about this album you were excited to talk about tonight.
Yeah, yeah, this is such a like a classic. You talked about like as this album and as an introductory piece on your hip hop journey. Like it definitely was that for me,
Hmm.
92, I'm still in college and this is really, I was exposed to hip hop before, but I wasn't like a huge fan. And then as I got into college and just got around a lot of different types of people, you know, it was a lot of different music got thrown at me, and as a musician, I was open to everything. So like, you know, there's a suite of classic hip hop albums from right around that time, anywhere between like 89 and 94, that are just imprinted in my you know, just in my psyche. You know, I was talking about like signs. I'm a Sagittarius, and it turns out that's a fire sign, and fire signs are like always forward looking. You never really look back. You don't spend a lot of time thinking about the past. But like a lot of these classic hip hop albums, like Low End Theory, this one, Dr. Dre's The Chronic, and you know, a couple of other, you know, Public Enemy, Fear of a Black Planet, you know, just albums that really brought me into hip hop. So I mean, this is like foundational. This album is foundational for me. You know, I remember listening to it in dorm rooms in college. I remember listening to it in girls' dorm rooms when it was just the two of us, and you know.
Whoa. TMI there,
buddy. No, it's not. No, it's not. You wanted to know. You know,
No,
Pete Rock's production on this album, like this is, I think, really what really brought Pete Rock, at least into my consciousness, and I suspect into a lot of people's consciousness. One of the things that I love about this album is like the little vignettes, the little song pieces that are like completely different from the main song. I mean, some of those you just, you know, something's good when you wish there was more of it. And so many of those like little vignettes that lead into the songs are so great. Like the little guitar, the little Jangle Box guitar riff in front of They Reminisce Over You. And then of course, like They Reminisce Over You has like the quintessential hip hop saxophone line. If you're a sax player and you just bust out that, like everybody's gonna be like, yes, you know, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. That is like a, you know, like the bass line on Electric Relaxation or something like that. Everybody knows that little piece. And it's just, it's so great. But this album, the whole album, start to finish, like CL Smooth's rhymes are so great. His flow is so great. The music, just like Artemis, like you said, like two pieces of a puzzle. You know, perfect music with like perfect emceeing, just a quintessential hip hop record. If you're not hip to this, you need to get hip to this. Like this is foundational stuff.
I think yes. I mean, you've talked it up, Ian. I think we should hop right into They
Let's
Reminisce
hit it.
Over You, and hear a snippet of that beautiful sample that we'll talk about.
I reminisce. Yeah. I reminisce for a spell, or shall I say think back 22 years ago to keep it on track. The birth of a child on the 8th of October. A toast, but my granddaddy came sober. Count all the fingers and the toes, now I suppose you hope the little black boy grows. 18 years younger than my mama, but I really got beatings cause the girl loved drama. In single parenthood, there I stood. By the time she was 21, had another one. This one's a girl, let's name her Pam. Same father as the first, but you don't give a damn. Irresponsible, plain not thinking. Papa said chill, but the brother keep winking. Still he won't down you or tear out your hide. On your side while the baby make a slide. But mama got wise to the game. The youngest of 5 kids, hun, here it is. After 10 years without no...
I was getting married in the house. Listen.
I was getting married in the house, yes.
I mean, how could you, the whole entire thing? I have to go, you know, we can't belabor on it, but it's almost like this song is impossible to do without some of the folklore around the song, right? We know it's about Trouble T. Roy, but I love the idea of that this album kind of solidified, what it's like to make songs out of emotion. I think just a lot of these songs are made out of emotion. But Troy, the fact that Pete Rock is like, this was such a close friend of just the neighborhood. So not just his, but like, growing up in Mount Vernon, this kid who got along with every single person. And I feel like there's a hip hop story around this oftentimes. This is like, unfortunately, a tragedy that does happen, that, someone's death brings everyone together in the community. But that Troy passed away. They were on tour, and he, Heavy D, and a lot of other acts anyway. Salt and Pepper was actually on that tour too, we talked about earlier. And they were throwing trash cans at each other. I don't know, this whatever, horsing around and stuff like that. Kid and Play was on that tour, and Troy slipped off the edge and fell off the stage and died. And you think about like how tragic that is. But in my head, I think about the fact that like, the original song of Jefferson Airplane, but then Tom Scott's cover of Jefferson Airplanes today, whatever, and the fact that like that's what they picked, and that, or not that that's what they, but that's what Pete Rock really chose to kind of pay homage to his friend. Like he's digging with Large Professor. It's like the most hip hop esque kind of a thing you could think of. They go digging. He had already sampled it. He pulls out like SP 950, is thinking about like where to go from there. The horn is there. He's like, I gotta gotta put it in there. It's gotta be part of the beat. And you think about like CL came up with the lyrics even before the beat was created. And I never knew that because it felt like so right. But this is a kind of a thing of like karma or whatever, or just like what's meant to be is just meant to be, because, the beat was so emotional. And I heard that, from Drink Champs, one of these shows, that Pete Rock was sort of saying how Charlie Brown from Leaders of the New School was even in the session, and he started crying. Like everybody's crying when they were mixing the record because that's how emotional it was. And they knew when they heard, it's almost like hearing CL's verse that he had already pre-written about family, about, his history and his life, and all of those things just fit on this track. So it gives me goosebumps whenever I hear this song. And I've seen it perform live so many times. I've been front stage, I get in the front row every single time. I'm literally right in front of FCL Smooth. Ask anybody who knows me. Actually, that's where I belong. But and I always send, CL Smooth a picture of us together. Like, we got to update this photo every year when he comes to DC. Like, I update that photo, right? But this is the song that, like, the whole entire, there's not a dry eye. There's people crying, hugging, everybody singing, to everybody. The energy of this can be 5 people or 500, 50,000. So anyway, just the emotion of that, I wanted to stoke up a little bit.
No, you covered that. You covered a lot of it. I can say that when I was at XM one time, and there was a some sort of show going on. It was around when they used to do the Dilla tributes, and My Dukes was there, Talib Kweli was there, and Pete Rock was there. And Pete Rock actually told that whole story about how he made the beat and everything. And it was like the first time I'd heard the story, I was like, wow, I'd never heard this story at all. Like, it was just, it was a beautiful but sad, like, story of putting it together. And CL Smooth, the way he layers all of the emotion into it, like, it's like you kind of looking at your family and just kind of like being like, dang, like I could see that reflected in my family, what they've gone through in the neighborhoods and everything. Like the first, second, and third verse, like it just kind of tells so much within all that. You know what I'm saying?
And you're a Libra too, aren't you, Artemis?
Huh?
You're a Libra as well, right?
Yeah, I'm a Libra as well. I didn't know he was a Libra. That's crazy.
Well, that 8th of October line is always, so every time I've met a Libra, I'm like, oh, like CL Smooth, right? Like my whole entire
Oh, yeah, exactly. 8th of October. Yeah.
It's his biography on, in
on a single track, and it's
so beautiful.
Yeah. It has, like, to me, one of those like really quintessential moments. I love the way that song starts with just the bass and the horn.
Mhm.
Then like when that drum comes in, when that first snare kicks, boom, bam, boom, bam, bam, that's just so great. Like to me, that just you know, it just vibrates through your whole body. Like the snap of that snare, that first snare, and then that beat throughout the whole song is quintessential, especially like 90s hip hop. We always talk about it. Seems like every week when we're talking about these classics, we're like, this is quintessential 90s hip hop. It's quintessential 90s hip hop. Like it all came like from this.
Yeah.
This was foundational, like I said earlier, and yeah, just one of the great tracks, one of the great joints in all of hip hop. TROY.
Right.
They
No
reminisce
doubt.
over you.
No doubt.
Yes. So this brings us to the next song. I think again, I mean, all of these songs have such folklore. I won't even, like I said, I'm not going to dib into or dabble into every single background, but I always just thought this was pretty cool because this is about bootlegging. And, you
Hmm.
know, Pete Rock just to me is a genius. And I don't know what about this song feels like bootlegging on 125th Street to me. It just feels like that. I can imagine this was the soundtrack for like what it meant to bootleg, you know, cassettes
Yep.
and albums, and that was happening during that time. And even the video, I don't know if you guys remember the video from Essex County Jail, and like that was
Mm.
really like they really went into the real jail and filmed that.
Mm.
And then went down on 125th Street and like literally found somebody selling their you know tapes. So
That's
the whole
wild.
thing was like, I don't know if that was a reenactment. I can't believe that that was like real, but the fact that they have that in there, just that feel and the vibe of it, and like straighten it out is like what you do to somebody, right? You straighten them out so you can make sure that we're gonna straighten it out so we make sure we get paid. And this
Yeah.
is an era when like people were, you know, getting sued. They were starting to get sued for not clearing samples, and they were on
Yep.
Electra. They couldn't have that wasn't their situation. They had to
Hmm.
clear those samples, which kind of, you know, you just think about the fact of like bootleggers kind of taking a chunk
Hmm.
out of like, you know, what that means. It's like a whole
Right.
entire micro macro kind of a thing. But yeah, I love this
Mhm.
straighten it out track. So let's hear straighten it out.
Like this. Come on. Walk a fine chalk line and put the needle to the grind. Representing one kind, see an eye for the blind. Witness what I carry on, bears a further purpose. From how we do slam a few, then you wanna purchase. A dialogue of funk, you love to pop it in your trunk. I win more discipline than a Shaolin monk. Pete Rock and CL, well set to spark it. The powerful target to destroy the black market. But when you say black, listen, I don't know, you lose me. I guess another beggar can't afford to be choosy. I come to the maximum, hardest on the major label. Any duplication of this one is fatal. On 125, I gotta hit your live, beat your ass with my tape, any race or shape. Cause if they got mine, they got yours too. But together, here's what we gotta do. Tell 'em. Yeah. You know, this is the word. That's right, y'all.
Yeah.
Everybody must.
Artemis, I see you
Straighten
grooving.
it
I
out.
just want to go right. What is the vibes that you're feeling off that?
Two step vibe. Like you do the temptation spin to it, you know, or you do like the spinners, you know. It always gave me that vibe too. It always gave me that vibe. Yo, this track, it, I didn't know it was over bootlegging. I always thought it was like, you know, just just beef. You know, you just straighten it out. You know, brothers got to come together, straighten it out. But dang, that video did. I could see that. Like that video did like kind of like outline to stop bootlegging. There wasn't that many songs about bootlegging back then. They had the
Mm-mm.
who what was that group's name? They had this song, "If you bootleg, you get your leg broke." That was like the
Oh,
straight ahead. I forgot who that was, but that was the song I used to think about with bootlegging. But I could see that with this.
but
Um,
now don't the lyrics make so much more sense? Like,
yeah,
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that he's going down 125, like talking about the tape, the black market, like the whole yeah.
yeah, straighten it out, like you know, compensation for this and that. You know, I
Hmm.
always that makes a lot of sense. But that's how CL was straight to the point, but he was so layered too, so you couldn't really
Yeah.
tell, like always what was what with his lyrics. Like if you listen to it back and forth, this is a song I would just groove to all the time, and I always
Hmm.
Yep.
remembered like his flow in it. But the paying attention to the lyrics more now, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. So yeah, I definitely like this joint. I'm surprised. I'm surprised this doesn't get as much like fanfare as Troy. Because I always thought this song was so dope, and a lot of people liked it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I dig it.
I'm one of those people, man. This is my favorite joint on the record, and I'll tell you why. I don't need to sample Oracle for this one because it's one of my favorite like old school soul numbers. Ernie Hines, Our Generation.
You got it right.
This is that joint. Straighten it out.
Yes.
Our generation. I'm not gonna sing because I can't.
No,
I got
keep
no
going.
bars. I got no bars and I got no range. I can play guitar.
Now keep going.
And actually, the guitar on that is like quintessential, like soul R&B kind of funky guitar, where the guitar almost it has a harmonic element, but it almost serves as a percussion instrument as well. I used to play in a couple of go-go bands, and what I figured out right quick was that the guitar had to be almost like a second percussion.
Yeah.
And I used to kind of like follow along and counterpoint with the percussion. Like when I'm on stage playing with other musicians, a lot of times I'm locked in. It's like getting deep into it, but like a lot of times when I'm on stage playing guitar in a group setting, I try to lock in on the drummer's hi-hat. To me, that's the purest 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. But when I was playing go-go, I would lock in with the conga player and like either lock in with him or counterpoint what he's doing. And the guitar from that Ernie Hines classic jam is like very prominent here in this. I mean, Pete Rock kept all of that that instrumental quality of the sample, in addition to like that great just background vocal. Straighten it out. Love it. Absolutely love it. It's my favorite joint on the record.
How's it go again?
Straighten it out. Straighten it out.
You got soul, Ian. You got soul.
You gotta.
It's beautiful. I love it. That is definitely what this song is about, though. And everybody, like, I feel like when they perform live, this is another one of those ones that's just like, when it comes on, the party is alive. Like it doesn't get live until Straighten It Out. Because everybody saves Troy for last, but Straighten It Out is in that first couple of songs out the gate. And it's just a classic. I'm like, I would love to hear how they feel about music piracy now, because it's kind of an interesting take. Like that's where we live now in the era of like piracy. But
people are sampling their samples now.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And that takes us to the last song that we've selected. It's Like That. So let's hear that song.
Prepare yourself to get your verse from the big verse. Rotate the megahertz where you heard it first. The perpendicular, set none similar. Quadruple any figure, quick on the trigger. Help the skeleton wig out by the good fella. Not Lupinella, cause I'm black and mold better. What's the phenomenon? We come to get busy. Deep in roots, but my name ain't Kizzy. Many marks, cause I'm heavy on the starch. Never tell a farce when I scale on an arch. Jamming on the radio, brothers say way to go. Shape it like Play-Doh, soprano at the chateau. My theory periodically flows an odyssey, bigger than modern technology. So save all the chit chat when I kick a format fat. It's like that.
Yes.
Man.
Go ahead, Artemis. I feel it and feel it there.
Man, so when I was telling my whole story about the select soccer team thing, I would listen to this album and like just roll with it. I think I was rewinding this song quite a few times, and like it was just like setting the scene for me every time I heard it. I was just like, it's such a dope groove, man. And I feel like when I got more into production, I was just like trying to make more. I was trying to make a few beats that had this kind of sound to it, but not exactly that, because I could never figure out what the instrument was. So I'm like, is that a kalimba? I was like, is that a thumb piano? What is that?
Yeah.
I still couldn't figure it out. But I used to rock this song, and I loved how it's just like it's like that. You know, it's just some cool ass raps over it, and it's like it's fast, but it's like very like chill. Oh man, that song, man. And I told you I used to listen to the B side more than I used to listen to the A side. So this is one of the songs that kept me on the B side of the tape, and I played it out to the tape pop. So, oh my God, yeah, took me back, man. I
I
love this
agree.
song.
I totally agree. I don't even want to add very much other than the fact that like this is just one of those kinds of songs like I've heard people yelling in the back. Like Ghettos in the Mind is a song I all when
Fire.
CL does perform it, I'm like my life has been made because they don't have it slotted in every live performance, but when they perform it, I'm like that's one of my probably top three songs. But it's like that is another one of those ones that you're just like, the vibes are always there. So when you were like, dance, getting with it, like it's upbeat and still dope, and it just kind of
Yeah.
this album is like a real album. There's no songs that are like under 4 minutes, except for this one song that's like nearly 4 minutes, and they are
Mm.
like it's an entree on every song on this album. It's no little appetizer. These new songs with one verse and it's a minute and 12 seconds. No, not for this album.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. I always feel like the mark of a great producer or a great songwriter is to make great music with just like the bare
Hmm.
minimum of instrumentation. Sometimes the best hip hop, all you need is just a solid bass line, a killer beat, and then just like the subtlest little touches over it. And that's really what this song
Hmm.
is. I mean, it's just again, it has that quintessential 90s hip hop sound. It's got a great little vignette leading into it. Um, you know, another thing we need to mention, by the way, guys, this album, Mecca and the Soul Brother, Luke Cage season two,
Yes.
every episode named after a tune off
Hmm.
of this album.
It's
So
very,
a
very
little
true.
pop culture callback, a little
Yes.
reference there. Not a little reference, a major reference in a Marvel, an MCU series.
Yeah.
So
It's appeared on a lot of
great
video
stuff, great
games.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, for sure. They reminisce over you, certainly has been. Yeah, this was, like I said earlier on in the show, this was one of those, when Tia brought this up, it was just like, boom,
Yeah.
yes. Such a great
Agreed.
album, such a great album. I would say if you're ahead and you haven't heard this album in a while, just pop it on. I had it going today, just big smile across my face. It was a stressful day at work, but like, I had this album on and just, every couple of minutes, just something hits me, whether it's the sax, whether it's a particular line, just, bringing me back. Big smile on my face listening to this one today. Last couple of weeks since you brought it up, Tia, just, yeah. Um, an all-time classic, an all-time classic.
An essential.
Do we have a wrap up on this? And
I
then
just will say like if going through your life, if you don't return, if you don't follow any of the other advice that we even give on this show, you have this is an unpardonable sin if you don't go back and revisit like Mecca and the Soul Brother. It is a starter kit for production. It's a starter kit for
Mhm.
like pure musical genius of like the sample flippage on what Pete Rock has done that still it goes in the annals of like of production of what you can do with the
Yeah,
sampler, and like people are still following the format that was created on this album. So
it's
it's just
canon.
like, and then CL, I mean, I think we all can say has is your favorite MCs, like favorite MC that they don't oftentimes mention because they don't even
Right.
Yep.
recognize how elemental he's been in their lives, like a Jay, like
Hmm.
so many people that you're just like, oh my gosh, this person almost was birthed by CL. You know what I mean? Like just the
Yep.
flow, the confidence, the ladies' man kind of aesthetic, but at the same time just really raw. Um, just there's these this was a duo for the ages. So
No
please,
doubt.
it's the elite record you have to have in your collection.
It's speaking of
Absolutely. Absolutely.
influence. I have to say this too. When I really got into writing raps, though,
Hmm.
I think I learned from CL Smooth the whole internal rhyming thing because he would rhyme a line, he'd do like an A B B B A, kind of thing. But it was a lot of times it was like one syllable, so he wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
like go into intricate with the syllables. But he did the whole like rhyme something here, then rhyme internally in the line, and then rhyme it at the end, and that kind of like sparked my mind a lot. So yes, you're absolutely right. You know, he's one of those rappers that a lot of people don't bring up, but they should often more so. So I
Mm-hmm.
suggest people revisit this album. If you haven't heard the album, please get it. And if you're an artist, study it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, all right, guys. This was an extra long episode of Grande Lock. Our audience is getting content, content.
Yeah.
This was the Grandiloquent Hip Hop Show, and there's a lot of grandiloquence going on tonight, guys. This was a lot of fun. Like I said earlier, this was one I was looking forward to all day, talking about both these albums. Great choices by you guys. So, well, this was Grande Lock. If you enjoyed this show, we would be honored if you would subscribe, rate, review the show, give us feedback. You can always hit up Artemis and Tia on their socials. Don't bother following me.
Do it.
It's a mess. It's just a unholy mess.
Follow
So we're on YouTube and Facebook now. We are on YouTube and Facebook. You can search Grande Lock with a Q. Production courtesy of the great Marcus Donovan, the pasteurized chef. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We love having this platform to talk about something that we all love so much. You can check out the Pasteurized Chef's show, the District of Misfits show, every Sunday or every other Sunday, every Sunday. Just tune in every Sunday at 10. Somebody's going to be drinking and talking shit. It always happens. They go live at 9 or 10, you know, depending. And it's always a fun time, super loose. So this show is a District Dogface Studios production. We thank them, and thank you for letting us into your brain. And an early birthday shout out to God MC Rakim Allah.
Happy birthday. It's
Honor.
actually
Yes.
midnight.
Happy birthday
Yes,
to the God.
yes. We continue. We celebrate. We honor. Yes, the God MC. So, and also all the many lives that we've lost this year. Yeah, that's our show. Peace.